Welcome once again to the Sheep and Cheerful podcast. I am your hostess with the mostess. I've been trying to say that all day. I am your host and CEO. My name is Nikki, and you can find me on all the things as at Clara Peggotty. I say all the things, not that many things actually. Oh, there go the dog noises again. And I've just realised Honey's outside the door, so she's going to probably start scratching in a moment. Yes, all the things. Instagram, I'm Clara Peggotty. And on Ravelry, I am Clara Peggotty. And on Etsy, my shop on Etsy, which I'll speak about later, is called Hugs from Clara. All one word, Hugs from Clara. There's a story behind that. When I first went on Etsy and opened the shop, it was to take listings for my alchemy blankets and for scarves and shawls that I was weaving. And I really felt like I, wanted to send hugs out into the world, and that the blankets and the scarves and the shawls were ways of hugging people, if that doesn't sound too creepy. So yeah, I called it Hugs from Clara. And it's kind of stuck really. So anyway, that's where you can find me. Best way to message me is either Ravelry or on Instagram. You can direct message me on Instagram or in the comments below, which again I'm going to talk about in a moment. I'm now getting all in a pickle and we're only a couple of minutes. Okay. What else? Yes, we have a podcast group now on Ravelry, which is Sheep and Cheerful Podcast. And again, I'm going to talk about that in a moment. I'm going to talk about everything in a moment. So what, you ask yourselves, is she going to talk about right now? Good question. I should carry on with the introduction. So yes, this is a podcast about living a creative and cheerful life on a day-to-day basis. So I invite you to join me for the next hour or so, usually more so than an hour, where we can just shut the outside world out just for a small bit of time and enjoy each other's company with a cup of tea or coffee, bit of knitting, bit of housework, all the things that you message me saying you're doing whilst you're listening to my voice. So, yep, if you're cleaning, get in there, girls, do that, or boys I should say as well. If you're relaxing, well, music there. If you're knitting, get knitting, but don't let me distract you and go wrong. And let's spend a bit of time together, shall we? Okay, the other thing I should mention is I'm going to record this in segments today, because last week I was so proud of myself. I recorded over an hour's content straight through. It was great. I just went on and on and on and on. And I couldn't transfer the file to my computer. It was too big. And I was up till, oh my goodness, gone midnight. The whole family were trying to help me transfer this file either. And don't worry about suggesting things, because we've sorted it out now. I'm going to move on to a proper camera. That we can then plug directly into my laptop. This week I'm still recording on my phone, and I'm going to record in slightly smaller chunks and upload as I go, so that onto my computer, so that I don't have that problem at the end. I was a little bit grumpy, I have to say. Last week, it's quite, it's quite involved, not only recording a podcast, but then watching it through, cutting out all the undesirable bits, which with me, if you see how many of those bits I leave in, imagine how many I take out. And then making sure it runs through, and then all that sort of biz, which is fine. It's fine. It's what I choose to do. It's great. But when it goes wrong, when technology goes wrong, it's not happy, is it? It's not happy time. So anyhow, totally lost my thread now. I think basically that's really just a welcome. hang on, excuse me. I've just remembered. I've made 1,000 viewers. No, subscribers. I said I do a happy dance. Okay. If there's any new people watching now, you're probably going to turn off straight away. I promised a couple of weeks ago that when we hit 1,000 subscribers on this podcast or on my channel, then I would do a happy dance. Those of you who watched me way back in November with the vlogs I was doing will be familiar with my happy dance. But yeah, that was a happy dance. We have smashed through the 1,000 subscribers, which is so exciting. It's so lovely, and it's still going up. The only way is up, baby. Okay, I'll stop doing that now. Yeah, so brilliant, thank you. And the comments and everything is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. The only thing I want to say was that as more people are watching and commenting, I read and love and smile and agree and nod with all the comments. I'm starting to find it a bit of a struggle to reply to each and every one, which is what I think is the polite thing to do. So if occasionally I don't reply to you directly, if you just get a little thumbs up or a heart sign, please forgive me. It's not that I'm, not taking on board what you said or appreciating your comments. It's that there's only one of me, and there's lots of you lovely people, and lovely people sounds awful, doesn't it? Friends, lovely friends out there. And now we've started the Ravelry group as well. I am finding I'm spending more and more time on my computer and less time actually crafting. So I will keep endeavouring to respond to you, but please don't stop. Please don't stop. When we do some make-alongs and some activities and things, we will make a point of having it on YouTube as well as Ravelry, though, because I do know that some of you don't like using Ravelry, which I completely understand. I was off Ravelry for a year or so, yeah, we will mix it across the two. The Ravelry group is growing, it's wonderful. I popped the opening introductory thread in there last week, and we've got about 50 people have joined, which is crack-a-lacking. And we've got a lot of you have put a little blurb about who you are, where you're from, which is fantastic. It just warms the cockles of my heart to see all of that. And as I say, I try and reply to everybody. If you're a little bit shy, I know some people have messaged me saying they're not quite brave enough to post comments or anything. Just read along, just join. Don't feel you have to write anything. You could click, underneath each message you've got, and they're really bizarre, but you've got agree, love, interesting, funny, whatever. You can just click on one of those, and people always like it to see, if somebody has seen their message and acknowledged it in some way. I mean, the love thing, you could just think, oh yeah, that's interesting. There is an interesting one, but I like this. We just click like and love, but imagine it as like. Okay, breathe. Anyhow, there are going to be some more things posted in the group over the next week or so, and I will talk about that later. But to start with, I just wanted to get it going and see how many of us there would be, and say hello to everybody first of all. Right, what else did I say? The shop update. Oh, get me, the shop update. My little project keepers, as I'm now going to call them, the Knitters record cards. I had that little shop update on Friday. Thank you for everybody. The cards, the covers sold out, and I know a lot of people have had the downloads to print and chop up themselves. I hope you find them useful. I've had some nice feedback already, which is great, and I am making a few more. In fact, I've been so busy this week parcelling those up and making more that, again, I haven't had much time to do any other making. So I need to balance that out a bit better. But I have, I'm making a few more. This is what I'm talking about. This one is I'm a maker, it's what we do. And they're project cards, record cards that are blank on the front for you to decorate either with pictures of your project or just journaling type stuff. And then you've got the project details in there. And the idea is that you pop one of these every time you start a new project. Pop one of these in your project bag or with your project. Keep it with it all the way through so you can write notes as you go. And then when you're done, you just clip it into this project keeper and you've got a record of all your projects. That's the plan. So anyway, again, I'll talk about that a bit later. I'm going to be jumping all over the place, aren't I, today? But hey ho, that's me for you. Oh my goodness, there's the phone ringing. Hopefully Gary will get that. He's still working from home and we're still making tippy-toe progress along the way. I don't think he's going to get that. Yes, he has got that. Sorry, my bad. No, excuse me just a second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. The joys of having everybody at home and having the husband working from home. So that's all sorted out. And yes, I think I was saying, for those of you who know the story, I'm not going to go into details. Gary is, yeah, he's pootling along. He's got various different treatments happening and drug regimes he's having to maintain. The upside was he absolutely loves Costa Coffee. He really likes it, and when he was going out to work he would often pick one up either on the way to work or at lunchtime. He'd walk out to one, and of course they've been closed here in the UK. Oh, I didn't say where I was, did I? Oh well, whatever, you know. They've been closed and they're starting to reopen slowly, but there's nothing local to us. There is nothing, and he's been really craving a Costa Coffee, which is a little bit of an insult because I've been making really nice coffees at home. We have a coffee making machine with the little pods and I've been making those, but not as nice apparently as Costa. I would probably agree with that though. Mind you, that's mainly because I don't have to make the Costa one. Oh, there's banging outside. It's gonna be one of those days. Anyway, when we went, he had an appointment with a neurologist on Friday and we had to drive. It was about an hour's drive away from us, which is fine. I went with him. More car park knitting, get onto that. And on the way, about half an hour away from us, we passed a drive-through Costa Coffee. He got terribly excited, so on the way back we went to the drive-through Costa Coffee and he had his big latte. That's all he has a latte. Oh, he had a cinnamon bun thing as well. I had my drink of choice from Costa, which is a soya chai latte, and I had millionaire's shortbread, after which I felt predictably sick, as I would, because they always make me feel like I've eaten too much, but I still do it. But that was a real treat. That was a Friday treat, I can tell you. Anyway, so yes, he's making progress. We're doing all right. He's going to be working from home for at least another 12 weeks. But there's a lot of confusion about shielding and about the medication he's on. So we're not entirely sure what's going to happen, but we're doing well. We're good. We're good. Hard work, as people will know when they've got everybody at home all day, every day, but it's fine. We're getting some good family time in, which is nice. But it's certainly not, you know, let's be clear, it's not Darling Buds of May. We're all good, we all get on really well, even the kids are being great. But you know, for adults living in close proximity, there's going to be moments when people need their alone time, isn't there? What else? I'm looking down at my notes. I think I've said most of them, but I think we need to get on with some making stuff, don't we? As I say, I was a bit near last week because I spent so long focused on the project keepers that I didn't actually get an awful lot. I lost my knitting mojo, quite frankly. So it's back, you'll be pleased to know, but I got no spinning done, I got no cross stitch done, and I got no quilting, either machine quilting or English paper piecing done. That really sucks. I'm sorry. I need to manage my time a bit better. I did throw myself all in to my journaling and arty pursuits last week, and I will give you a little show and tell later of how I'm doing with my Bible journal. But my spinning is sitting there. Now, I will say that a little later I'm going to film a little segment about my Ashford e-spinner and my spinning, because I've had a few requests for that. So I'll pop that in here and talk about that for you. And I will get on with the first project I'm going to show you, which is my Hummingbird Shawl. So it's in my lovely project made by Rachel, which I've talked about many times before. I have my project card here, although I still haven't decorated the back. I must do that, but it took me a long time. If you think last week I was doing, let me show you a picture. I was just doing the middle section. Right, so that's a black and white, because that's really helpful. I was on this section, which was the first colour. This is a 3-colour shawl. Excuse me. And I was on this, and I was using my Madeline Tosh. I'll show you in a moment. It was a cream with neon speckles. And I hadn't decided on which colour I was going to use next. So that's... just makes my heart sing every time I see that. I just love it. So I needed to decide which colour to do this, okay. So I made my decision. I jotted it down on my project keeper, so I knew which was colour A, B and C. And so I made colour B, was this one. So that is from Yoshi and Lucy. Have I got this was one of my, if you remember, it was one of my New York purchases from Nitty City last December, when Hannah and I went to New York. And this is her Pinkie Pie colourway. It's a superwash merino nylon 4-ply, but it's a really sugary pink. Yeah, Pinkie Pie is perfect. So I used that as the second colour. And then I used this beautiful, beautiful sort of peachy, orangey red colourway from Priory, from darling Emily, the Priory, and that's her Sonnet colourway, which I love. And the progress we have. Now, it's a weird shape. I'll explain the construction in a moment. Excuse me. Look at that. How bizarre. I had to look at. Right, so this is the top. So last week, if you remember, I was knitting in the round. So this whole middle section is knit in the round. You cast on in the middle with a magic circle and you knit outwards, and you've got a cheeky brioche section in there with some brioche increasing as you go round, plus garter stitch. So that's the Madeline Tosh colourway. You then cast off that side with a stretchy bind off, which is why it's a bit baggy there. You then do, on the remaining 2 sides, you do a row of your second colour, which is my, can you see that there? The Pinkie Pie. There's only 2 rows there, and then you begin, so you can see it much more clearly there, and then you add your third colour in and you do short rows. So at the moment I'm doing short rows this side in Sonnet, and then I'm going to be coming across here and doing short rows this side in Sonnet, so that will then look symmetrical. I love this. I love this. It's such a good structure. It's so interesting to knit. And you can see, if you go back then to this picture, so these are the 2 sections I'm knitting at the moment. and then we're going to bring it across there, I'm guessing, join it all up, and then I'm going to start. This section here is colour A and colour B in a brioche. Can you see that? Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely love this. And it did, you know, I spent quite a time on this. Look at those pops of colour. They're just amazing. I think this is going to be absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I'm using higher bamboo interchangeable tips with higher cables. And this is a, oh, heavens above. Excuse me, I can't even read. Do you know what? That's why I write it on my project keeper. 3.75mm needles. But that is going to be a knockout. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. And that is really, towards the end of last week, if I was knitting on that. So I don't even think I left the progress keeper on here. But I hadn't done the brioche section. So if you look at that, I've come from that centre there and done all the way around here. I'm just justifying my lack of productivity. Love that. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Oh, and I didn't say the Hummingbird Shawl is by Anna Joanna, Johanna. I'll put it across the bottom of the screen. And it's her design is Where We Once Knitted. I think she's that on Ravelry as well, but she's also Anna Joanna on Instagram. She's prolific as well. She designs a lot. So that was my Hummingbird shawl. Very, 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 very happy with that. Right, on to my next work in progress, which is also a new cast on. I do have to confess that it's not the cast on I told you last week I was going to do, which was the Floral Party top. Yeah, that kind of got a bit shell. Because I want to say I'm a slutty knitter. That sounds really bad, doesn't it? What I mean is that I'm easily distracted by other beautiful things. Yeah. So I have had in mind ever since, well, two things really. Oh, I keep leaning forward and I'm knocking the camera. Hopefully my anti-wobble thing will stop that. I could do with an anti-wobble. Sorry. Okay. Two things. I have, I think you'll remember, probably one of the first podcasts I did. I had hit up Fig Tree Yarns in Jersey for the Wonderland Yarns Mad Hatter minis, kind of minis. And I bought the Tea Time collection. And I know Becky, Back to Blighty Becky, also did the same thing, because we've been chatting about what we're going to use them for. Always happy to enable. And these yarns, now I've taken them out. The thing is, I'm a real sucker for great presentation. And these were all tied together so nicely. But basically there were 6 minis or 6 hanks of speckled yarn. Each were 86 yards, so of superwash merino sport weight. So I've got 4 to show you here and 2 which I have caked up. So we had those. There's a pink and a mint one missing, which you'll see in a minute. Now, I just fell in love with these. Obviously sport weight. But there's a lot of sport weight projects coming out these days, aren't they? Mainly because of dyes like this are dying with sport weight. Any UK dyes out there, please dye some sport weight. It would be so cool. I know you can switch in fingering weight and or DK and, you know, sort out your gauge, but anyway, that's another story, isn't it? So I loved that. I also loved the new sweater by Caitlin Hunter, the Jupiter crop, which is this one. And yes, I printed in colour because I love it. So that's the Jupiter crop by Caitlin Hunter, Boylan Knitworks. But as much as I adore that, those are not my colours. I didn't want to knit it in chicken colours. I should also say that I now call this the chicken sweater. I'm going to refer to it as the chicken sweater because she based it on one of her chickens. And for me, that's good enough. So that's the chicken sweater. It's knit, she designed hers with the Rosario, can't remember, the Portuguese yarn. But again, I didn't want to buy more yarn. I wanted to use what I got, and I suddenly thought maybe I could use the Speckled Wonderland yarns, and this is done in sport weight. So I don't think I told you last week, I went back to Victory Yarns. I do like their selection. If I'm not buying, I did look, I searched long and hard for British yarn or yarn from UK suppliers, and I just couldn't find anything suitable. And Victory were doing, they do a yarn of the month and they discount it. And I love and have always loved Swan's Island Merino. I have got 2 skeins back there somewhere of some yarn I bought a while back, which way back, my first unravel, when I discovered Victory yarns actually. Anyway, they had 20% or 15% off this, and this is also sport, no it's not, it is sport weight, French blue, and this is their French blue colourway. And I love the washed out colour of that. So and Swan's Island is eco-friendly. They are treated with an organic eco wash to make it machine washable. They don't use synthetic polymers. It's hand dyed, and I'm sure it's naturally dyed, maybe not, but anyway. So I backed myself 2 skeins of this because I thought that would be, it's really different for me, but I thought that would be a really nice combo. I wanted a bright colour. I've been watching one of my favourite podcasts, American ones, and they knit really bright coloured stuff, and I thought I need to go bright and be a bit bold. So anyway, then I did the swatches, and that led to a very bad day. The first swatch I did, I didn't read, and I swatched in stockinette. Now, that's the other thing. I'm going to bang on about this. I'm sorry if you're bored, skip on, but that's fine. I don't, swatching, yeah. It's only of late where I have been really, really focused on my finished product, my finished project looking good, that I have been concerned about swatching. I've always been a process knitter rather than a product knitter, so I've thrown myself into it and I've settled for whatever I have at the other end. In the last year or so, I've been trying to be a bit more mindful about my knitting and making stuff that actually I feel good about wearing, not just stuff that I can say, oh, it's just me, you know, I go wrong, I make mistakes, I do rubbish knitting. I'm growing as a knitter. So I have been swatching. I'm sorry about that. Did that make you feel seasick? That was Henry. He's laying under the table. He kicked something that is the other side of the camera, which then knocked the camera. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I did a swatch. That's how it knitted up. But I'm way off gauge, way too small a gauge. I was getting 6 stitches to the inch, whereas her pattern calls for 4.5 stitches to the inch. No, 5 stitches to the inch, my bad. So there was no way, and with sport weight, and I know why, it's because she's using, I mean, she's a looser knitter than me, but also she's using what I think is a woolen spun yarn, the Rosario yarn. I should look, shouldn't I? Retrosario Volvo, Portuguese wool. I know it's a woolly wool. I know, I think it's probably woolen spun as well, so it does puff up. It comes up much thicker than a superwash merino, or than any kind of merino would actually. But I really wanted to use this yarn, so I thought, oh, I'll swatch. I did a swatch in the round. I thought that might, because it was a colourwork swatch. She said you need to get your 5 stitches to the inch, or 20 stitches to 4 inches. So I did this ridiculous, if you're a serious swatcher, please don't, but I was so cheesed off at this point, I was desperate, so I did a really small swatch in the round, and I still only got, even after washed and blocked, I was still only getting maximum 5.5 stitches to the inch, but mostly 6 if I'm honest. Also, I didn't like the fabric I was getting, having gone up a needle size. So to knit on sport weight yarn on 4s, because the pattern calls for 3.75, and I went up to 4s, but it was too gappy for me, and to do colour work I didn't want that showing through. Anyway, I had lots and lots of angst, and that's another reason why I didn't knit much over the weekend, because I really wanted to knit this sweater with this yarn, and I just couldn't decide what to do. So there's 101 ways to skin a cat, aren't there? And I'm sorry if you've got a cat, I didn't mean that personally to cats. I would never skin a cat, just make that totally clear. I decided that I would take my gauge, I would work out how many stitches I need around the bust area to get my bust measurement, which was, the one I was going for was, I think it was number 4 on the pattern, size 4, which was a 43.5 inch bust. So I worked out the stitch count, looked on the size, the number of stitches, and it turns out that if I knit size 6 at my gauge, I will get the same size as knitting a size 4 at her gauge. I checked the maths, double checked the maths, triple checked the maths. I spoke to my friends Penny and Irina, and I said, does this sound right to you? Sounds right to me. And I thought, you know what? Caution, go out the window. I'm going to cast on. So I am now knitting, all that to say, I am knitting the chicken sweater by Caitlin Hunter, the Jupiter crop. I'm using 3.75mm needles, as the pattern says, but I'm knitting 2 sizes bigger, so that at my gauge of 6 stitches per inch, I get my measurements that I want. Have you got that? It's 5 minutes of your life you're never going to get back. Anyway, the exciting thing is I cast on a couple of days ago and I cannot stop knitting. Look at that, look at that, look at that. So I've obviously done, now this is the back, this is the short row shaping, so the front is actually there, and of course it's curling up, look. Oh, it doesn't go well with my dress, let me dip down. There. How pretty is that? It's so gorgeous, I love it. So these are the other 2 colours. So the rest of the colours are going to be these as we go down. I am going to need to buy another set. I'm hoping that Victory will have another set, because I'm knitting the bigger size now, I need a bit more yardage. I'm all right with my main colour, with my blues, but I need some more of that. So I am going to have to buy that, but it's worth it. Look at that, and look at how that blue is knitting up that kind of faded denim-y colour. So, and it's fingering away, it's got a lot of stretch. Look, it's going to be bigger than that. That's where we are at the moment. Excuse me. I love it, and I wanted to knit it, and as soon as, I don't think that will, I think if I put that over my head, shall I do it? You're screaming at me saying, don't do it. But I did it. Oh man, there you go. Let me take it off so that I don't. So, yes, chicken sweater, Caitlin Hunter, otherwise known as the Jupiter crop. and it is absolutely blooming lovely. I love that. So thrilled with that. And I sat outside last night. It was a really warm evening, so I sat outside in the garden and just worked on that. And so that's really busy, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely love that. And I have also elected to use one of my decorated project keepers, my record cards, which is that with all my scraps from my quilt, and I've zigzag stitched around the edge, and that's my info. So those of you who bought the cards, obviously you can do this, of course you can, at home. You can make patchwork covers if you want to. For those, I'm going to try and find the emblem of a chicken to stick on. In fact, my lovely friend Jen has chickens. Jen, can you do me a picture of one of your chickens that I can put on there? Thank you. So yes, and that is going, you've seen my Plystra Knitters project bag before, that is going living in there. So that's that and that. So you may or may not be pleased to know, or relieved to know, that they're the only two, the main two works in progress I am going to share with you for the time being. There is one more, and I'm going to come right on to that next. Okie dokie, moving on then. I have this week been chatting lots and lots, and even more lots, with my dear new friend Cherie from Ollie and Bella, from the Ollie and Bella podcast, and from Ollie and Bella on Instagram. We have found we have so much in common, not in the least our faith, our crafting tastes, and our general approach to life, which is really lovely, isn't it, when you find someone like that? She is an absolute sweetheart. We have been chatting. Even obviously she has 3 young children to look after, and I don't, but we've been managing to have conversations, which is great. And we've been talking about all sorts of exciting collaborations. So do watch this space. Flip over to Cherie's podcast as well. I think she's hoping to put another one out this week. We are going to join forces for several make-alongs and projects coming up. So yeah, we'll speak more about that. We've just got to pin down some finer details, and we will be letting you know. We'll be kind of doing it across both our podcasts, both our Ravelry groups, and so on. So that's really exciting. One of the things she got me, I sent her a little gift, and she asked if I wanted some scrappy yarn minis if I was working on a scrappy blanket. And I said to her, well, I'm not really into that. I am, but I'm not, and I don't do it. And then. Well, then I thought, actually, let's just have a look. And because my knitting mojo was on hold this week, I dug out my granny stripe blanket, my scrappy blanket, and I got it out, and I thought, I flipping love this. Oh, is it when you get a project out, you haven't seen it for a while? I think I showed it on the vlog some time ago, but I got it out and I thought, I want to work on this. I really want to work on this. And I want to make it a thing, and I want to have a group with Cherie to have for our podcasts for scrappy blankets and so on. So I picked up, and yesterday I put a couple more rows on. So I am getting, Henry's right by the wheels of my chair as normal. I am making the Cupcake stripy blanket, a pattern by Lucy from Attic 24, who we all know and love. If you don't, hop over to her blog. She has a blog, and she has the most amazing crochet patterns and instructions and tutorials. I rekindled or relearned to crochet through Lucy's blog about 10 years ago, before she got really well known and famous. And this is her Cupcake stripe blanket, because I have a strange relationship with crocheted blankets. Hang on, I'll drop something there. I'm not sure about plain granny stripe. I've seen some beautiful ones, but whenever I try and make one, I go off it. I don't like it. But this pattern I absolutely love. So this is my it's all the ends on that side. I should turn it over because there's not so many ends. No. So I think I did something like 282 stitches. And what I'm doing, can you see the pattern? It's a 4-row repeat and I absolutely love it. And last night, so I put a progress keeper. Last night I put on this blue one. And what I'm doing is I'm holding fingering weight double. So indie dyed fingering weight minis or leftovers. I'm holding double with good old Drops alpaca, 4-ply alpaca. And you know, I use this a lot. This is, I adore this yarn. So I'm holding that double. So I'm getting, it's mulled, but it's also really, really softening the colours because I wanted this to be pale rather than bright. So I'm so excited to get going with this again. So excited. I think I'm not good, or have not been good in the past at turns at the end, and I think my edges are a little bit wonky, but when I got it out and looked, they weren't actually that bad, so I think that'd be okay. So yeah, absolutely love it. As I say, absolutely, that's my word of the podcast, absolutely. So I am going to start working on that. Again, it'll only be slow, and we are going to be doing some kind of thing with scrappy yarns, leftover yarns, knit alongs, crochet alongs, all that sort of stuff, with your blankets if you've got one on the go, or if you want to start a new one and knit along or crochet along with us. So yeah, watch this space. Also, while we're on the subject of blankets, I should have looked beforehand. Do you remember the entrelac headband? And I said I was tempted to make an entrelac blanket. Someone, I can't remember who it was, but threw down the challenge. She said, I think you should. So I was thinking about it. And then I saw a post on Instagram from Chrissy Crafts, who is a prolific crocheter. And she was crocheting, it was a plain granny stripe clusters, but she was using the most beautiful colour palette. And I fell in love with her colour palette. And also I have wanted to try Shapier's yarn, or Scapier's yarn, I think. Carmen from New Leaf Design told me how to say it when I last saw her, and I think it's Scapier's. She said, was it like you say school, say scape, and then yes, so skip yes. Is that it? Common? Did I remember that? Anyway, so I have found a pattern on Ravelry, and it's actually for a small blanket. You could call it a baby blanket. I'm going to call it a lap blanket, but we're going to see how I go. I needed something to set me off, because having done the entrelac headband, which is just here, oh, I just knocked over a pile, if you remember, and I had to do the crossover. So I managed to do quite a lot of kind of dividing and technical edging and stuff on that one, whereas the blanket, you've got 2 edges and then all the middle is the same. And I found a pattern on Ravelry and I really like the look of it. You remember I felt a lot of them were quite dated. Well, this one isn't, and I don't have the details. I will put the details across the bottom for you, and I am going to cast that on at some point soon-ish, because now I'm in love with my crochet blanket. But I bought some Scapier's Stonewashed, which is adorable. I am, in principle, you see, I am very anti-synthetic yarn. Not because I'm a yarn snob, but because ecologically, environmentally, I think it's a bit, so I say sinful, and I don't mean sinful in a religious way. I mean, it's just poor to actually be creating something when we've already got a natural supply, of plentiful supply. But having said that, This is 78% cotton, 22% acrylic. I decided that I would give it a go. And so the colours, so I can't show you a picture of the pattern. The background is going to be this colour, which is Moonstone, Wilkie Collins, if you remember. So it's a sort of an ivory colour. I wouldn't call it cream, I'd go more ivory than cream. Colour 801, Moonstone. Then the colours I'm going to use are this one, which is Citrine. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this of them all. This one, which is Morganite. Then this one, which is Rose Quartz. This one, which is Fosterite. And then this one, which is Turquoise. And they're going to be gradiating through the blanket. So not colour graduation, but there will be blocks, colour blocks, like that, with the ivory in between them. So I am super excited about that. I really want to cast on, but I am going to wait because I will probably tie in this cast on with what we're going to do as a make along in the Ravelry group. So that's Scapier's stonewashed yarn, cotton acrylic blend for an entrelac blanket. Oh yeah. Right, okay. What was the other thing? I did make another cheeky purchase, and I am going to confess, because I am really excited by it. I'm really happy about it. Okay, I'm just going to put it out there. I bought a Hohe Co Project bag. But surely, Nikki, that costs a fortune, and it's shipped from Argentina, and it's all really expensive. Well, no, it wasn't. And this is what I've got to say to you all. It wasn't cheap, but it was about equivalent by the time I got it to buying one of the fringe supply bags. So from this country, you know, which they're about 60 or 70 pounds, and I think this was 70. So I hope you're not shocked. It was a real treat. It was, you know, we'd come through a difficult time with Gary's illness and everything. I'm not going to justify it, but I was feeling like I really wanted to just splurge, basically. And I didn't want to splurge willy-nilly on yarn without having projects to use, or, you know, stuff that wouldn't really mean something to me. And then I saw that Hohe was having a warehouse sale. So she had, they were putting up for sale seconds of their bags that had slight, maybe a little bit of marks on the suede, or the poppers were in the wrong place or whatever. And they were going to be heavily discounted. So I thought, well, I'll have a look. I knew the postage, the mailing was going to be about £20. And I did get nobbled for import duties, but I'm not going to talk about that. So the postage was about 20, and I thought, if I can get a £20 discount off of one of her bags, then that will cover the postage. And this is a one-off thing. I felt, although I haven't got one, I really want another one now. Anyway, I'm not a great bag person. Occasionally I really go for bags. Sorry, Honey's tap dancing again. But I got one, I bought one, and I absolutely love it. I haven't even started using it yet, but I'm going to show you. Look at that. It is just beautiful, and oh, it smells. I apologise to the vegans amongst you. I do apologise. You can look away, but I don't have a problem with the ethics and the sustainability of this bag. That's just my choice and my decision. And what I love is that it's made by cooperative of workers. you know, I feel, although obviously we all feel like we know Hohe Locatelli, don't we? She seems like such a lovely woman. So I got this mustard colour, and it's so soft. You've got the leather strap, which you can have it there and use it as a carry, and then the inside has got a clip and a little pocket there. I was thrilled with this, and I got it in 4 days. I got it within 4 days. I thought it'd take weeks. That's a real, I just have it there and I look at it at the moment, which is terribly materialistic of me, isn't it? I just love it. I love everything about it, I have to say. So that said, I received a gift this week in the mail, which just was amazing. I'm not going to go through it all because, you know, it was special to me, really special to me, and I've already spoken to the friend who sent it to me. This is from Australia, and she sent me, Karen, she sent me this whole little package. We've been chatting on Instagram for a few years now. She's an amazing woman, and she does a lot for charity. Really admire her so much, and she reached out and said she'd like to send me a little package of gifts, and I was like, me? So she did, and that arrived yesterday, and I'm just going to show you, there's 2 things from it. She sent me a whole load of little bits and bobs, some handmade stuff for journaling, and she sent me a project bag, which I love just as much as I love my Hohe bag, and that's it there. Look at that, it's beautiful. I don't know, Karen, if you knew this, but I love Delft pottery. And recently, when the lady who, I think the account is the Dutch Yarn Barn, she did an offer of hand-dyed yarn plus a project bag plus a pottery cup, a mug painted in the Delft style, and I was that close to signing up for that. In the end, actually, it would have cost the same as the Hohe bag, but I didn't go for it in the end. I was quite restrained. So to get this couldn't be more perfect. How beautiful. Actually, that we're all about the blues. Maybe I should keep my chicken sweater in there. But this is, I know there's a hashtag. I don't know who started it, but it's dodgy bag, and it's people to make a dodgy project bag. And so she's called this her dodgy bag, a very dodgy bag. But I love this. I really do. And then she sent me a fridge magnet, but I'll have to go and get that in a moment to show you, which really tickled me. So that was lovely. So I've had some really lovely mail, which is really great. Right, what else? I'm going to do a spinning bit. I've no idea, because I'm doing this in segments. I don't know how long we've been, but I will record a spinning segment. The book review today is going to be the second of Hannah's choices from last week, so I'm going to play around with that and put that in. High fantasy, for all those who are interested in the high fantasy genre of books. That's another thing Cherie and I are going to be doing, is a read along, make along. We are discussing that, and we have plans for doing one probably seasonally, so once a quarter. And we've got plans for the first 2 books, and we're going to come up with ideas to relate our crafting and our making and our whole outlook in life to the books that we're choosing. So that will be really exciting. What else did I say? I have got an idea for something I'm going to do. I'm not sure if Cherie's going to jump in on this. She might well do. But when I lost my knitting mojo, I was frustrated with my socks. I seem to have lost my sock mojo, which is fine now that I've rediscovered my sweater mojo and my shawl mojo. But I'm probably going to do myself a little sock boot camp. So I'm going to say for 1 week, I'm going to knit on nothing but socks. So I don't have to finish, I don't have to, you know, it can be new, old, whatever. And I'm going to just have a week of socks. So I'm going to possibly work out a week that suits me, that I know is going to be a good week for me. I'm not going to do it this week because I know I won't stick with it because I'm in love with my sweater too much, but possibly the week after next, and we'll go Thursday to Thursday, so podcast to podcast, and it will be a sock boot camp or week of socks, probably sock boot camp, because I'm going to have to discipline myself to just work on socks. But I would like to get some of my socks. I think I've got 4 pairs on the needles and I want to get them going. I want to, you know, because I do want to actually cast on some more socks, but because I'm kind of unenamored with what I've got on my needles for various reasons, probably because I've forgotten a lot about them, I'm not finishing them. I also have a sock blank that I want to cast on that I dyed a couple of years ago, and Deborah over at Meanwhile at the Castle is dipping into one of her sock blanks, and it's made me really, I used to knit, I used to be all about the sock blanks. I've got my one here. This is one that I dyed. And I really want to, it's a single one, so you just pull one strand of yarn from the end, and I think this will be amazing, and I really want to knit up with this and knit along with Deborah, but I don't feel I can cast on another pair until I've sorted out the rest of my socks. So that, as they say, is that. Okay, so I'm just going to talk you through my Ashford e-spinner. And note there's a really irritating fly buzzing around in here. So I may have to deal with that in a second. But anyway, so this is the e-spinner. I've cleared a little bit of space on my desk, which was appalling. Now this is, if I put my hand next to it, so you can get an idea of the size. Hang on, there's a ruler. So that's a 12-inch ruler, so that's about 12 inches. The new ones, this is an old model, the new ones are more compact and lighter than this. They're very nice actually, the new ones. They're the ones I taught the classes on at Tribe Yarns back pre-lockdown. So you've got, basically then you can see this has a power cable, so it plugs in. And what I've said, as I've said before, is that the thing with an e-spinner is that the main thing, all it does is take away the treadle aspect of the spinning wheel for you. So you still have to do it that way. The key with spinning is how you handle the fibre, and that's where the skill is. The treadling, yes, it's a skill, and you do have to get the knack of it, but don't think that any spinner is something that just takes away all the handmadeness of what you're doing. At least that's what I think. So anyway, so you've got this. These are your bobbins. Now the Ashford e-spinner comes with jumbo bobbins, but I have put some standard bobbins on at the moment because I'm actually enjoying spinning onto a standard bobbin. But over here we've got, no, that's a jumbo. That's got some singles on it. So you can see the size difference there. And it just means that you can spin, if you want to spin chunky or art yarn on this machine, you can, because it has a big, feed there. So the way this works is, under here you've got, you've got an on-off. You can see how worn this is with this lettering. You've got a reverse and a forward, and then you've got a speed button here that you can change the speed depending on the amount of twist you want in your fibre. The new machines come with a foot adjustment where you can turn it on and off, so you can stop the wheel spinning, stop the flyer spinning with the foot control, whereas with mine I have to actually, I have to flick it off with my hand. Forwards and backwards is because when you spin your singles in one direction and you ply them in the reverse direction, and that's known as an S spin and a Z spin. And then you've got your flyer, you've got your bobbin. This is your brake band here that helps you control the speed as well. And that, oh sorry, finger over there. And that's, you can adjust the brake band and the tightness there. And in here you've got a little orifice hook that tucks in, if I can do it without looking. But I use this orifice hook which was sent to me by a dear friend, Elisa, over in America. So I always use this, and you use this if you need to, you go into these feeds here and you hook your yarn and pull them through and through there. But obviously I'm not giving you a spinning lesson, this is just to show you what I've got. So what I'll do is I'll hook up the phone and I'll just show you how it spins, or how I spin. Okay, so I've tried to get the best angle for you to see how this works. I would normally sit a bit further away from the machine, but we won't be able to get that into shot if I do that. So I'm going to turn this on. This is going to start spinning, and then I'm going to start feeding the fibre in. And for those of you interested in the technical side, I'm going to use a short forward draw to do this. So we turn it on, and I'm just using, so I'm grasping the fibre, this chunk of fibre, with my right hand, and then I'm drawing thinner strands of fibre forwards towards the wheel, and then the wheel puts a spin, the twist, into the fibre, which then gives it the strength to hold together, and it winds it around the bobbin. I'm a bit jerky because I'm using very short draw, a short forward draw, because of because of the angle. I would sit back a little bit normally. So when you're treadling, you're powering the flyer and the bobbin to spin. So that's what you don't have to do when you have an e-spinner. When I stop it, I just hold on to the twist with my left hand and turn it off there. Obviously, if you've got a foot control, you can just click it off on the foot. And you can see there, I'll come in. Okay, you can see this is the yarn. Ignore the green, that's my leader yarn. This is the yarn that I've been spinning. And you do that until you get a complete bobbin, and you keep going. Wind that around to stop the twist flying out of that. And then when you ply, you'd have your two bobbins here. This is the jumbo bobbin, Lazy Kate, and you draw a yarn off of both of those and ply them with exactly the same motion really through the e-spinner, but you use a reverse directional spin. So there you go. I love it. I love my e-spinner. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly talk as well about my Bible journaling. I don't journal directly into my Bible at the moment. This is quite a new thing to me. So I'm just, I have elected to use a traveller's notebook. Actually, this is one of Hannah's old ones. You can see she's got her oh, look at my dirty nails. Her initials are down there anyway. And so I've just got one of these little traveller's notebooks here that I use. And this is what I'm going for at the moment. It's a 30 Days of God's Promises, and I'm working through them. And this is from God at My House. And you can actually download this for free. If you look on the website, it gives you the code to enter. Otherwise it's 25 pence, but they do give you the code to enter. I believe it's Promises, but just check that. And what I've got, and you have to remember this is all very new, but I'm really quite excited. This was when I first did it, before I even got stickers and things. Then this is where I started getting really into it. So here, this one, this was the scripture. and then I've just added some decorations there. The second one, the scripture was Matthew 6:24. That one was one that I felt God put on my heart. And this was not from here, actually. This was from Every Day with Jesus. But I love that one. And then this one, I really went to town, because this is a scripture that means an awful lot to me. Make it your ambition to definitely endeavour to live quietly and peacefully, to mind your own affairs and to work with your hands as we charged you, so that you may bear yourselves becomingly and be correct and honourable and command the respect of the outside world. And that is one that is really, really special to me. And then the next one, it's when I was drawing my doodles. That was one, just a notes on a sermon I watched. This one. So I do a mixture, really. These ones I use paint splots, excuse me, watercolours. I download some of these resources from a website, and I have now bought some stamps, so I'm stamping. That was yesterday's. Sorry, that was the day before's, and this was yesterday's. So yeah, and I have this. I have to show you this. This is really strange, but I absolutely adore this rose, and it's an earring. It's an old clip-on earring, which probably belonged to an older lady years ago, and I found it in a charity shop in a whole box of mishmash stuff, and I love it. I really love it. So I use it as a bookmark, as like a clip to show me where I am in my Bible journal. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. The most important thing, though, I have a book by Shannon Noel. I wonder if I can get that for you. I'm going to scoot you across from Illustrated Faith. I think it might be in the bottom of that box. If I try and get that out. Oh no, there it is. She has, on Instagram. There you go. A workbook guide to Bible journaling, Shannon Noel and Friends. And that's what got me started. And that's got some really good ideas in it. But one of the key things she says is that let yourself be guided. Don't try and copy someone else's techniques or what they do. Oh, here's a honey bear. Just let yourself be guided to your own creativity. Gosh, this place is a mess. Anyway, that's that little bit. Okay, so that's all those little bits done for you. I hope you found them interesting, the spinning and the Bible journaling. The Bible journaling was really just to share with you what I'm doing at the moment. As I say, I'm in no way up there with the fantastic artists that are around doing things like that, but I do find that the creativity allows me to focus very much on the word of scripture, which I love doing. Right, so I think I've talked about most things. I think this is going to be quite a long one again. I've talked about that. I'm going to do, so on my Etsy shop, I think I'm probably going to put a few more Project Keeper covers in the shop. The downloads are up there all the time. If you would like to download your own sheet, what have I done with it? Hang on, I have to whiz on wheels somewhere. Here I come. Right, so as you know, that's mine. So and I've shown you this before, but I put little tags of the yarns I use. That's how I decorate mine. Hang on, there's that one with the pattern on the front and the yarn. So that's mine. The sorts of ones I've got, that one going into the shop. I'm a maker, it's what I do, it's what we do with the plain back. I've got a couple of drink tea create repeats going in, and again the back. As I said before, these are all hand designed and hand cut by me, so they are not machine produced. Therefore, you know, they might have a bit of a bumpy edge or what have you, but they are all handmade totally. So I'm going to be putting, I'll aim to put 10 in the shop. Again, I don't want to, they take quite a lot of work, so I don't want to put loads in until I know people are going to want them. But as I say, if you want to make your own up or make your own cover, then you're welcome to download the template, which costs £1. I actually think it costs £1.20 because I think Etsy put VAT on it, but I listed it as £1, so whatevs. And there are spinning ones available, and I'm going to be working on some more. I've had another idea for a major new design of one, which I'm really excited about, and I will let you know when that's going to go in. I won't show you the other designs. They can just go up there, and if anybody's interested, then have a look. It will be Friday. I will probably put them up Friday morning this week. I don't think, you know, there's no need for me to do a specific time because, you know, I don't think there's going to be a huge trample for them. But if there are, I can put, you know, I can make some more, so it's not a problem. So I'll aim to put them up mid-morning on Friday this week and see how we go. And as I say, if the demand's there, I'll make some more. I've got some new designs, some new ideas coming, so that's really exciting. Right, and that really is, I think, it. I'm hoping to get some more of my other crafting done this week. I'm going to get some, I want to get my English paper piecing going again, and some, I get a bit of cross stitch done and so on. So I'm going to be doing that. In the meantime, I am going to sort out the clip of the book review to put at the end of this. I won't come back to the other side though, so I'm going to say cheerio to everybody. I hope you've had a good week. I know it's been a difficult one in many ways, and my love and prayers go out to you all. I hope you are able to continue to be more sheep and to really keep cheerful, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you all next week. I'm now going to hand over to her again, because you get a double whammy this week, for the Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I can barely lift it, honestly. Okay.
It's such a pretty cover.
So, review it for us.
Can't hold it like that, it's too heavy. The only problem I had with this book was that it hurt my hand to hold it open.
Well, perhaps the paperback would be quite so hard.
It might not be. And obviously, like, a lot of people read books like this on Kindle, so, and this is obviously a very large book.
It's quite a new book, isn't it?
Yeah, so this was published in 2000 and, I want to say 19, but it may actually have been 2018.
Yeah, 2018, I think.
2018.
That's when we went to Bristol.
Oh, in that case, it was published in 2018 by Samantha Shannon, who is a British author. And her other well-known work is a fantasy series called The Bone Season, or the first book is called The Bone Season. I think that's just what the series is referred to as. I'm not 100% sure, but that's a series that she hasn't yet completed. And this is a standalone, epic, high fantasy book that she's written and published, kind of aside from that.
So is it young adult fiction, or is it adult,
I mean,
or is it kind of cross the...
It kind of does cross the border, I think. I think a lot of people are kind of mixing it. It is, I don't know where it's shelved, which is kind of the decider, like where bookshops shelve a book. I don't know. I would still call it young adult, but it could well be classified as adult. But it's not adult in the sense that there's a lot of things in it that are themes that are very like adult and inappropriate. It's no worse than other young adult fiction.
So what do you think, 16 and upwards or younger?
Yeah, 15, 16.
Okay.
I mean, to be honest, anyone who embarks on reading this book should be able to read it, because you need commitment to read an 800-page book. So yeah, this is 804 pages, this hardback version, and obviously you know the book would be bigger if the hardback was smaller, so there's a lot of story in here. It is about a queendom. Well, it's about a fantasy world, but it's specifically focused on a queendom and dragons. There's just dragons in it, and it's all separated between the East and the West. So instead of chapter names, all of the chapters are entitled East, West, and I think a few of the chapters are actually also entitled South, but South isn't a big part. It's the East and the West, and the East and the West both view dragons very differently. The West view dragons as worms or evil beasts, and the East revere dragons. They're actually, because there was a battle and a war however many generations ago in which humans and dragons fought, but there were other dragons that fought with humans, so you actually find out, you actually know that there's kind of a difference between the evil ones and the good ones, essentially, just like humans. Plus dragons are super cool. Just
throw that in there.
Yeah, well, there is a dragon on the front cover. And the story follows four characters, sorry. It follows Ede, who is it actually says this in there. This isn't a spoiler because it says it in the front cover. Ede, yeah, so she is, they call it
read
mage.
the front cover.
I could, but I can explain it. It's just I wanted to check what the wording was that they used. But Ede is the lady in waiting to Queen Sabran, who is the current queen of, I want to say it's pronounced Inyas. It's Inys, and I, throughout the whole book, have not known how to pronounce that. And she needs an heir because, according to their legend, they're the blood heir of the current breath-necked queen is the only thing keeping the dragons away. And Ede is one of the main characters we follow as she tries to protect Sabran. She is actually secretly a mage who is loyal to a secret society of mages.
Of course she is.
Who is basically tasked with protecting the queen in secret, of course. The other character we follow mainly is a character called Tane, and she is from the East, and she is training to be a dragon rider, which is the highest honour you can get in the East. And we basically follow her through that journey and through a various amount of things that happen on that journey for her. There are a couple of other minor, I'd say minor, they're still main characters, but we also follow their journeys, but they're kind of, I would say throughout that the main characters are Ede and Tane, because they're the main focus of the difference, like the West and the East. And essentially what does it say? The divided East and West refuse to parley, and forces of chaos arising from their sleep.
Oh, that old chestnut.
Pretty much explains it. I mean, the sentence, a world divided, a queendom without an heir, an ancient enemy awakens. So what I like about this book is that it has a lot of political aspects of it, as well as the kind of magic and the fighting and the peril and like escaping from
Dragons.
Being prisoners and dragons and all of these creatures. It also does talk about the kind of the war side of it, with Sabran and her being queen and her councillors, and there are various things that happen in court. There are also things that happen for allies to be created for the West and the East and whomever in between. They're talking about, you know, who trades with whom and why that means they can or can't be trusted, and it ties in really nicely to actually give a very rich world, because it's not just, you know, oh, we're all just going to fight, we're all going to do this. It's very much like, well, we might help you, but what can you offer us? Which, whilst irritating, I think really brings it to kind of a really...
a bit more meaty.
Yeah, it definitely has that. Along with, you know, the dragons and all of that cool stuff.
Style of writing?
The style of writing, I really like the style of writing. It's third person, it's third person and it's linear, so it all goes in a correct timeline, which is traditionally what a lot of books are written in, and it's my favourite thing to read, because it's just, you know, I just enjoy reading that kind of writing. It's very much written, there's not a lot of things that you might see in terms of writing in more contemporary books, because it is traditional English. It's the only way I could think of describing it. You know, there's not any slang, there's not any, even like the smallest bits that people don't even think are slang, but could still be considered slang, you know, however many 100 years ago. It does have more of a feel of a traditional English book, because it is, you know,
so more classic.
Yeah, it is more that way, because it does avoid use of I can't think of the word.
Vernacular.
Vernacular is the word I was looking for. It does avoid the use of a lot of vernacular language, but I didn't find it difficult to read. I think, you know, it wasn't written in a way that was stilted, and it wasn't word heavy like maybe Tenant of Wildfell Hall was. It just used similar words in that it was traditional.
Was it fast read? Do you know what I mean? Some books you know are fast reads, and others you can't read quickly.
I think it takes time with this, because there are so many characters and the world is so vast. Like, there's a reason traditionally fantasy books are not standalones, because there's always too much information. You know, a contemporary book, you don't need to explain the world, you don't need to explain the political system, you don't need to explain where they get food, what the technology is, what the magic is. Like, you don't need to explain any of that. You can just jump right in, tell the story and finish it. But with a fantasy book, especially in a high fantasy book with a whole new world that's not based...
A whole new world. Sorry.
That's not based at all on...
any form of reality.
Or reality, yeah, like urban fantasy might be. It takes time to kind of... to get to grips with the system. I say there is, which... I didn't find until the end, which I think has happened to quite a few people, because I've watched people's reviews on this. But there is a glossary at the end of this book. There is a persons of this tale. So all of the people are in it, including, and she classifies them. So she has like them in the storytellers, the characters of the East, the characters of the West, the deceased characters, all of that are in here. And then there's also a glossary for any of the language that people might not know, which is a lot to do with old-fashioned kind of jewellery or dress sense in the Queendom. Some other words that are to do with the languages that people speak or traditions within the countries. It is all in the back, so you've kind of got a quick guide if you wanted to flick to it.
You're in the know now, Pete. You know, go to the back first.
But yeah, it took me a while to get to grips with who the characters were, remembering who the characters were in regards to other stories, because you would sort of be focused on a chapter on the East, get to grips with the secondary characters, and then you would be in a chapter on the West, and you'd have to remember, which gets easier and easier as the story goes on, but it isn't the easiest thing to start with, because you can't remember who's the East, who's the West. You know, the secondary characters who have gone away from the immediate story, I sometimes found myself thinking, wait, are they loyal to them, or are they from there, or what is their relation? It is that kind of, it is a lot of information, and the story has, like, I think the thing that made this really readable is that it wasn't an information dump without a story. The story contained everything you needed while still carrying on, but it's still a lot of information to try and take in whilst following a story.
So quite a good summer holiday read then for people.
Yeah.
If you haven't got a load of other stuff going on.
I mean, I read this in 5 days.
Oh, we used to shelf. She stays in bed all day and reads, so don't think she, you know.
Actually, you do realise 5 days for an 800 page book is shameful compared to my Kingdom of Ashford.
Yeah, but that was a whole nother thing. Yeah.
I just you know thought I'd point out.
Slightly obsessed with that, but anyway, so both very different books.
I would rate this higher than Kingdom of Ash.
Oh, is that like, that's not the Court of Akatar ones, is it?
No, Akatar, I have very controversial feelings with myself, not with other people. I have very mixed feelings about that series now that I've read it and I look back on it, which is very strange. And the other series she wrote, I've now got a Throne of Glass.
Right.
Kingdom of Ash is the last one in that series, and
that's Sarah J. Maas.
Sarah J. Maas.
Sorry.
And I would rate this higher.
Well, there you go, peeps.
But then she's a very controversial writer, so I don't really know whether people care. But yeah, this is probably...
Okay, and is that out in paperback yet? Do we know?
I think it's out in paperback in... It should be out in paperback.
Yeah, probably. Sure. It's at least a year old, so I would have thought it'd be out in paperback. Yeah. But anyhow, thank you, my darling. Can you believe you just did that? Thousands upon thousands of people are going to see that.
What, me going?
Exactly.
Yeah, but when they could be looking at that.
Yeah, we've actually got Honey down here now. He's looking all pathetic, but... Anyway, that's a half an hour. That's about a 10-minute longer book review. Oh, for goodness sake, I've got both now. Then I would normally do. Yes, thank you, darling. Really? So thank you for listening. I hope that was an interesting book review. As I say, I would rate The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, absolutely. As does Hannah, and Honey hasn't read it yet, obviously. The I can't remember what it's called, The Priory of the Orange Tree. If you like high fantasy, then give it a go. I mean, it sounds good, it's just not my bag, so I wouldn't read it.
Maybe get it on Kindle.
Yes, get it on Kindle or Audible, maybe,
unless you're like me. Oh, I have it on Audible
now. And yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Let us know if you've read either of those two and what you thought. Like I said before, I'm going to put a book review or book club section in the Ravelry group. Excuse me a second. Yeah, just got a low power sign up on my phone, so that means it's time to go. And we can chat more about books there if you like. If you enjoyed this, give us a thumbs up, and if you feel like subscribing, do subscribe. That's very exciting.
Thumbs up. Was I late?
Thank you. Thumbs up. And we would say in the meantime, have a great week. I hope the weather keeps good for you, and be more sheep. And what else do we say, Han? Because you don't watch my podcast, do you?
Be more sheep and be more cheerful.
And be more cheerful. Bye.